Yeah, because they.
Right.
Big Daddy. They got a pretty good idea.
Where you at?
This part there.
They bought a house.
From a Diet Coke. Yeah, well, you tell her I said hello.
I was there
She gets back that way or.
I got a friend.
She knows my wife.
Was to start at 10 o'clock. Let Mayor Green finish up that. Direct traffic back here. All right, all I want to thank everybody for being here this morning, and we are starting the meeting off with a quorum, which is better than our last meeting, so we're in good shape there. At this time, if you would, we'll stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance, and that'll be followed by opening prayer with Judge Williams. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you today for all the leaders here in this community, Lord. Please let the decisions that we make use your guidance, and please forgive us for all of our shortcomings and where we fail you. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
All right, our first item of business is approving our minutes from our February 18th meeting. And if you've had a chance to take a look at those, anything with motion regarding those minutes.
I'll go for it.
Motion by Judge Whitfield, seconded by Mayor Green. Yeah, okay. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of approval signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. And then I will turn it over to Miss Angela for our upcoming deliverables.
If you all will bear with me a little bit, I've got a lot of information to cover, and so I'm probably going to do all of that from where I'm sitting, if that's okay with everybody. The upcoming deliverables are in your packet for the month of May, the month of June, and the month of July. What we're trying to do, if you all can remember from our previous meeting, is show all of you the sections of our work program that KYTC gives to us, and kind of explain kind of why we do what we do and how it all goes together. So for May, we have a couple of deliverables that include the speaking engagements and the Title VI accomplishments. Those are all part of the public involvement plan. There should be a couple of copies of this document on your table. This is a document that we put together every year for KYTC, and you can see that that's going to be a deliverable in June. So there are multiple parts to that, and the speaking engagements and the Title VI accomplishments are just part of that. Having said all of that, for the upcoming year, if there is a group in your community that I can come to and speak about transportation and how the process works and all of the things that we do throughout the year, please let me know. I would love to get to every county at least once during the year for something like that. Oh, yes, yeah, the chambers, Rotary, Kiwanis, church groups, anything that has groups of citizens that, you know, may have questions or aren't up to speed on what we do and why we do it. So just shoot me an email, let me know when those dates are, and we can get those things coordinated. The Title VI accomplishments are all the things that we do to stay in compliance with the Title VI requirements. I just got notice from Melissa yesterday or the day before, I believe, that our Title VI plan for the upcoming year has been approved. So we're good to go on that. What we will do in the public involvement plan is kind of go over that a little bit and talk about some of the things that we have done, the things that we do annually. So as part of our public involvement. Moving on to the month of June, with the end of the fiscal year, that's a reporting month. So we will have the quarterly report and invoice. those are all under work element 1A. That is one of the attachments. This is just a 2 to 3 page part, of our work program to tell you and explain the different elements of the program administration, which is work element 1. But 1A is the staff time and review portion. So the three of the deliverables that you see for the month of June, the quarterly report and invoice, the second part of the annual assessment, and the cost allocation plan are all under that work element 1A. Now, the quarterly report, you all have seen that. It's a growing document that covers the entire, this time of year, it'll cover the entire fiscal year of everything that we've done as a staff to further the transportation objectives. And then Alicia and her staff in the finance department will prepare that invoice and submit it to KYTC. The second part of the annual assessment, we have two. We have one in December, and then we have one towards the end of the fiscal year. And that is a meeting with Nathan Ridgway, who is over all of the transportation planners for the state. He works for KYTC, and he will meet with myself and Jason and Amy usually to kind of go over our performance and what we've done, the things we've submitted, our participation in the process, and kind of give us some pointers on areas to improve on, or the things that we're doing really, really well. The cost allocation plan is something that is on our website. It stays on there all the time, so you can look that up. It's under our transparency section in our website. And basically that is the plan that the ad follows as it relates to all of the funding that comes in. This plan shows you the staff that's responsible for it and how that money is allocated back out. So that will need to be updated, and that will be due to be up on our website in its updated form at the end of June. Moving on to the socioeconomic profiles, and then the public involvement plan being posted to the website. The socioeconomic profiles is another thing that we do as a part of that public involvement plan. Our GIS department reviews the updated socioeconomic data that we get passed down, and they will create new maps to go in that plan. So that is one of the deliverables for the end of June. Then once all of that is put together and it's entirely updated, the one that you have in front of you obviously is the one for this year. There will be a new one with updates to it, generally in the same format, but with all of those details that we work on throughout the year updated, and then it'll be posted to our website on the transportation page. This stays there all the time. So that's where that will be. Then also at the end of June, we have the regional transportation asset interview or review inventory. That's the other larger document. There's a couple on each table. We don't have a recycling program here anymore for paper, so I was trying to be a little bit more conscious about how much paper we printed, and we'll get to the 400-page safety action plan here in a little while. I only have one of those, but all of you have these that were sent out to you with the link to our website where you can download all of those in digital format. The transportation asset review that we do is basically a culmination of all of the things that we do throughout the year. So it has information about the CHAF projects. It has information about how SHIFT works. It will have maps that show where those CHAF projects are. If you all remember from some of our previous deliverables, there's the major freight users inventory that's in there, the intermodal connector, truck parking, rail freight loading and unloading, bicycle and pedestrian assets, scenic byways inventory, park and ride facilities, and then we have all of the alphabet soup that we use with all of our terms and acronyms at the end of the document. This is done at the end, well, I guess at the end of our fiscal year, because this is what has all of the major work that we do with all of the updates to all the different data sets. So everything that we submit and tell you about throughout the year at all of our meetings ends up pretty much in this document. And then this is posted to our website too, I believe. So it would be on the transportation page as well. All of the deliverables for this document is under work element 3, and there's just a brief overview in your attachments on that one. And then as we move into the new fiscal year, we will have the allocation of staff costs and time and the work elements and components review. That is where we map out how much staff time and which staff members are going to be responsible for which work elements. And we pretty much map out our entire fiscal year for that. And that 1A, I think you have that earlier. We talked about that a little bit. I know that the way these are set out, I was hoping to group them by work element, but that's not how the work program is set out, because there are different parts that happen during different times of the year. So I know it is incredibly confusing the way that I have just gone over it. I am more than happy to answer any questions that any of you all have about any of these different elements. Or if there's anything that you would like to talk about more in depth or see more in depth, I'm happy to do that for you. But the purpose of this part of our meetings moving forward is really more about education and helping you all to understand what the staff is doing day in and day out, and how that factors in to the things that you all are presented and are responsible for making decisions on. So.
All right, anybody have any questions for Angela? Any meetings that she can attend, just be sure and let her know. And so she can get those scheduled on her calendar. Get that achieved. All right,
Adam, are you here? He's up here yet. Okay, I need to send him a text message. Yes, that'd be great. Let's move on to district updates, and then you should be here directly, so.
okay. So while Angela's checking to see about Adam's status and location, we'll forego item number 5 on our agenda and just move right on into our district reports. And we'll start out with District 1. I don't know who's drawn.
No, District 1 had another commitment.
Okay.
I'm sorry. District 1 had another commitment that they had to be out of town today. They told me on Monday that they would not be able to attend. But they said that if they had any updates, they would let me know, and I don't think I've received anything yet. So
I'll take all their time.
there we go.
There you go.
That works.
This District 2.
All right, well, I was trying to finish up some letting dates, looking through my phone, but we'll wing it here. No, I just, I want to speak first on the new highway plan, right? That's what, is it not allowed?
Oh, it's on mute. Sorry. I'm supposed to do that.
Angie failed. Black switch at the top.
There we go.
All right,
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. So I know the highway plan is everyone's great item of interest. So 2 years ago, after the bill was approved on, I guess, the Senate floor is the last step there after it went through conference and back through both houses. 2 years ago at 7:30 p.m., I had a county judge, not from this area development district, but I had a county judge message me at 7:30 p.m. that night 2 years ago, and asked when we could get started on his project. So I like to say that's how excited everyone is about these highway plan projects, but it was beat this year. I had a state representative message me from the House floor, not in this room, and asked me when we could get started on his project. Just minutes after it was passed out of the House. So I don't know how we can beat that one. That is a pretty quick after the ink's not even dry yet, because we've not printed the published version yet. So let's talk about some next steps. And Joe, I hope usually Kyle Pope gets to do this. He gets to give all but he steals my thunder. Well, I'll do it for you today. Let's talk about the next steps now that we have a highway plan. So us at KYTC, we're still dealing with the the version that went through the legislature. We're still using the bill copy that was sent to us by the Senate chambers at this time. So that's what Joe and I and Kyle and our groups are using, is that legislative version. We printed it out, made our notes on it. But the next step is for KYTC leadership to go through that, confirm all the mile points, the funding sources are accurate, and then they will print that enacted 2026 enacted highway plan that we will find linked on the website. So although the bill had an emergency clause in it, it's currently active, our project development staff is working towards those letting dates as put forth in that. We will know more about our marching orders once that printed copy is delivered to us. And we expect that mid to end of this month. I almost said May, but we're in May now. So that will be in the next few weeks. And also with that, there's always a very good summary of the process from KYTC leadership at the front of the book. So please read that. I think we say it every 2 years, but they spend a lot of time on that introduction portion of the enacted highway plan. So please, when that comes out, don't just, well, skip to your county first, see what's in there. It's going to be the same as you saw from our legislative version, but take a minute and read through that summary as well. It talks about how the funding is allocated and spent and those sort of things. After that, each district will meet with KYTC leadership because, as you know, we have a limited number of staff, a limited number of consultants, and we just can't on day one be full speed ahead on every project. And it's hard to do when every project is important. So which one do we start first? There's a lot that goes into those conversations. And we start more than one first, obviously, but there are conversations about which ones we need to, how we need to prioritize moving through those. And as we have future transportation meetings, then those priorities will become clear as Joe and I and Kyle talk about which projects we're advancing at that time. But our goal is to use every dollar that's been allocated to us in the best way possible, because they're all important projects. These are important to our travelers. They're important to you as local leaders. And we want to deliver the highway plan to the best of our ability. And just, I want you all to be patient with us. It just doesn't happen overnight. We have our own staffing issues and funding constraints that we have to work through. So I think Joe would say the same, and Kyle, that reach out to us. I try to be responsive with your project status request. And if you work with me very much, you know, text message is the best way. I see those quicker than the emails. So we'll go through a few projects that are, and I think Joe has one project, so I won't take too much time, but I will take Kyle's time since he's not here. I'll start in Christian County. They're always alphabetically first, so that's fortunate or unfortunate. We are currently under construction on, well, of course, a portion of I-24 between Christian and Caldwell County for that pavement rehab job. And it's been more than 20 years. We talked about this Monday about the concrete breaking process. It's going on right now at I-24. If you've not ever seen that, it's something we don't do very often. We'll be doing it more and more often as these concrete pavements continue to deteriorate. But if you have a free afternoon, drive west and look at that machine on I-24. It's really interesting. I'm an engineer, so it's interesting to me, but it's this piston type machine. It just walks down the pavement and it busted up. We'll try to put a video on our social media soon. Our information officer wants to get back out there. So go look at that. And in this particular project, they are busting that concrete. We call that breaking, and then they'll roll over it to seed it, and then they'll put a few layers of asphalt on top of it. At our I-24 meeting Monday that we had with local officials and stakeholders for the full widening of I-24 to 6 lanes, we got some very shocking cost estimates on that process Monday. I see people nodding. Tennessee will use current day dollars. Tennessee is widening their portion of I-24 to 6 lanes at about $16 million a mile currently. And we were hoping to get between 16 and 20 million, but that's if we started tomorrow. And we do understand that with the rising cost of fuel and other things, that there has to be some contingencies placed on that cost estimate. So those ideas were presented to us, and I know I'm jumping now to the widening instead of the pavement rehab. But it was obvious from the study, and I think Judge Humphreys, you gave a media interview, that the areas of highest crashes and highest traffic are at each end of the state, both in the Paducah area, in their urban area, and then near the Tennessee state line between Oak Grove and the state line. So the project team's not made any decisions on where we start. Funding has to be requested first through our state budget process. And so it just gives us a starting point once that report is finalized later this year. So I'll jump back where I started talking about was our interchange on Kentucky 115. We are under construction and have been since December to add a second bridge over I-24 at Kentucky 115. And that is to accommodate the accelerated schedule of the Buc-ee's that's going into the west of the interstate. Where that's at, and that's Buc-ee's will be adding, similar to Oak Grove, they'll be adding a roundabout at their entrance, and then we are also having a roundabout added at each of our interchange points. So there'll be 3 roundabouts in Oak Grove that Buc-ee's is constructing by encroachment permit. They have not yet submitted us their final plans. Every few weeks, months, we have a back and forth review of their plans. So part of this, so that we don't tax our current state transportation dollars with a private investment, is when a company like this comes in and they need a significant change in addition to our infrastructure, then we require them to do it. And that's whether it's a grocery store or housing development. We have a traffic impact study and they do that with their own funding. And that's no different for Buc-ee's. And so we've been working with them very closely to make sure that the roundabouts they design and then later construct work. And so we're just trying to make sure that process is right. But with that, we know that that 2-lane bridge over I-24 was not enough traffic, not wide enough to accommodate Buc-ee's style traffic. So we went ahead and advanced. We can do that sometimes. We advanced the construction of that second bridge to give us 4 lanes there. So the state is doing that now. Buc-ee's will be coming in with 3 roundabouts. But then we have the added concern of the 700 acres of potential mega site property to the south of that area. And then also Walter Garrett Lane, where that comes in, and Oak Grove's plans for that area. So with that, we do have a secondary project to our bridge project, and that's 2-10.1, 2-10.0 is under construction now. And that will look at potentially revising the roundabout on that side of the interchange of the interstate, and then also making accommodations for Walter Garrett in any future plans that we have in that area. Will be a state project that will be more economic development based there. So that's coming too. I don't have a date on that. I just know it's a huge area of interest and wanted to let you all know that we are aware and we're making plans to accommodate those things. But with that, and when I took this position 8 years ago, there was this constant tug of war, I'll call it, between opinions of, do we widen 115 first, or do we repair, or do we build the Pembroke connector first? If you all remember that 8 years ago, and John Murray, who will always be part of that conversation. But I said, why do we have to pick one first? Why can't we work on both? And so at that time we did. And if you remember, I combined all 3 projects, the north widening, the south widening of 115, and the connector into one design project. And we did a preliminary design on all 3 sections. Well, now we're nearing the end of the design on all 3 of those projects. Pembroke connector will be first, just based on how it's advanced. We're working through a few right-of-way situations there, and we're hoping to have that let in May. Well, it can't be May at this point, but we're hoping to have that let in June. So that one is just right up there at the finish line. So the Pembroke connector should go into construction very soon. And then the project that was following that next is the north section of 115 widening, and that was let in March. So that is currently under an active construction project. And the completion date for that is the end of 2027. So we gave them a full 2 construction seasons to do that widening. And then our final piece would be the widening of 115 on the south side to connect to I-24. That is currently in right-of-way. We're starting to get our right-of-way estimates together so that we can make offers to property owners through there. So it's not very far behind, and it's all moving forward, which is what we want to see. Any questions on that before I move to Hopkins County?
There was construction dollars for the south here of that in this budget.
Best I can remember. I can't remember if they're state or federal, but I believe there were in there. So in Hopkins County, we have a lot going on. Also, I know I put Midtown Boulevard at the top. I don't see the mayor here, but Midtown Boulevard is a big priority there for the community and for us. We've just recently had a partial right-of-way funding allocation for Midtown. And so we'll be doing estimates and appraisals on the 0.3 section of Midtown, which is the missing piece of Midtown Boulevard in Madisonville. So we're working on the right-of-way for that, Judge. And the construction for the section 3 to connect that final piece of Midtown is in this biennium. It's in actually 2028, but it's state funds. So we're hopeful that that will be available when we need them. I've asked them to have the right-of-way purchased by the end of this year. That's ambitious, but I've asked them to try it. So that's the news on Midtown. And the other big project in Hopkins County right now is North Main Street. It had those special high growth corridor funds attached to it. But it also has a CSX overpass on it. So that is our hurdle at this point, working through CSX, because when we cross under the railroad, all of our utilities also need to be tied to that. And so we're in heavy conversations with CSX on what they will allow us as far as the utility trench to get our utilities under the railroad as well with that construction. So we had that scheduled for a March letting. We're not made that either, but as soon as we get those conversations finalized with CSX, you'll see that one go to a construction letting also. The project I'll talk about in Middleburg County is our exit 58 Cloverleaf interchange. That one we've been in early design for at least a year now. And we are working on a contract mod with that consultant to move into final design. And final design is where you decide all your quantities, what type of rock you're using, pavement design. That's our final design. We're moving into that, and I don't have a letting date set on that yet because we need to advance through right-of-way and utilities phases before we set a letting date. So that's the projects I had scheduled to talk about. I'll take questions if anyone has a question about a different project.
If you mentioned it, I failed to hear it, but the completion date for the connector, you have an estimate for that?
That is the one I was looking at when you, I'll find it and text you. But now the connector, I don't have a completion date on that because it's not lead. But we'll give them 2 full summers to build it. So if we can get it let soon, it will be the end of 2027. But if it's later this year, we'll have to go into maybe mid 2028.
The cameras that are in work zones that are monitored by the state police, are we using any in District 2?
We have them requested in District 2, and we originally did not request those for I-24 because you all travel I-24, you know, when we reduce it to 1 lane, it backs up so much that speed is not an issue. But we're seeing, and we had a meeting with Christian County Hopkinsville officials a week or so ago, that the speed in advance of the construction zone is an issue. So we've requested extra state police patrols. We'll pay for those out of the project funds. We've also requested those trailers, but the ones that the state currently owns are allocated at this point. So we statewide have ordered some more, and I-24 is on the list for those. But as we get the master agreement in place we could buy those at a certain set price, then we'll be able to request those for more of our projects.
We're also back in the 1 lane merge up before 86.
We did, yes. Yeah, we moved the 1 lane transition up in advance of the interchange.
How's the drilling and filling going on I-69?
I should have mentioned our mine issue. If you all go through Madisonville, we have at this point, I think we know it's an abandoned mine situation. We went into an emergency contract. It was right before Easter. If you all don't know, right before Easter, a portion of I-69 northbound in the fast lane, we had a hole open up completely under the fast lane. We were able, with the help of emergency management, we got that closed off really quickly, and we're able to work through an emergency contract. And we have a company, Geotechnical Specialties. They're drilling holes every 10 to 20 feet. And what we'll do is, we know there are voids under the interstate. We've drilled it with KYTC drills, but there's no pattern to it. It doesn't present as the typical room and pillar type setup. But we just want to cover the whole corridor. So they're drilling holes along the shoulders of the interstate, and they will fill that with a low slump grout. And our slump, for non-engineers, the slump is after you take a measurement, you pour a certain amount on the ground, and you take a measurement about how much that slumps. Well, if the low slump grout is a really stiff concrete. So we'll pour that along the shoulders to form a wall of low slump stiff concrete. And then they'll come back through and we'll close different lanes at different times, and we'll fill the area under the travel lanes with a high slump concrete, a really runny concrete. And that will fill in all the voids and cracks and crevices of whatever we have under the interstate. And that way we can maybe not every 6 months have a collapse under the travel lanes. So that's the status on that. Good question.
Lover's Lane in with that road. Intersection there.
I should have put that on the list. That is a popular one. It is scheduled for a May letting. Because of the school opening, we have very specific intermediate closure dates in that project to accommodate the school traffic. So we have very specific dates in there for their summer break, their spring break, their winter break. And we need to keep that in the May letting so that we meet those timeframes. And we're all aware of that. There is one right-of-way parcel that we're working through, and we're hoping that at the 11th hour that comes through and we can keep it in the May letting. But that's our goal, because we've written the project to where we do it in off-traffic school times. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you to Denitra. Joe from District 3.
Good morning, everyone. I frequently mentioned in Todd County US 79. That's the project that we opened bids last July, and that project will be going on construction widening through out this year. In fact, our public information officer made a social media post yesterday with a lot of photos and some updates. Contract completion date is later this year, October, November. So it's going to be a full year of construction and some inconveniences for traffic. That's really the only specific project. Denitra mentioned highway plan and the next section of US 79 from Novellis on to Logan County and beyond. We do have design funds in the highway plan with reliable funding, I'll say. So this is very good. I feel like that next section will be prioritized, and we'll be working on that very soon. Also, the Highway 848 bridge that has the weight posting. It's in the statewide bridge program, also previously known as Bridging Kentucky, and it has a construction fund scheduled for next fiscal year. So I think we're about a year away from construction, but we're actively in design and we'll be working through rights of way and utilities. LARP is the Local Access Road Program. You'll all remember this. This really applies to everybody. Kind of formally the discretionary program. It's a competitive grant program, and the legislature was able to select those projects and publish those. So Todd County, you have 3. Mayor Green, you have 1 in the city of Elton. That's really great. But for everyone's benefit, we were told yesterday by the Commissioner of Rural Roads that those agreements will be going out in the next few months. So I know you're probably wondering, well, when do we get started? Fiscal year starts July 1. I checked the last cycle last year. All the agreements were signed in the month of July for the most part. So kind of expect that in your budget and in your schedule. You'll be seeing these agreements. You'll have to pass a resolution, but that'll be coming to you forthwith. Also with rural secondary funding, we're still waiting. It was a budget cycle and we're still waiting on those final numbers, but we'll be getting with all of our fiscal courts to meet with you. I know you're anxious to know what your flex funds are, and we're anxious to know what our rural secondary funding is, but it's coming soon, and we should have that in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be scheduling fiscal court meetings with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. All right, Adam has made it in, so we're gonna bounce back up to our 5th topic item, and I'll ask Adam Kirk to come forward and talk to us about Safe Streets for All updates.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you all for having me. My name is Adam Kirk with the Kentucky Transportation Center, local technology transfer program. Gonna give an update on the, Safe Streets and Roads for All project. So I think we were here a couple years ago, probably, at the initial kickoff. And we've gone through a lot of data collection, a lot of analysis, and we delivered the draft plan, I think it was last week. So want to kind of go over it, kind of give you an idea of what is in that plan, what you can use it for, and then, you know, what you can do to make that plan as part of your community. So this is the plan. Give you a little bit of background on Safe Streets and Roads for All. So it started in 2022. This is a federal grant program. Came out of the bipartisan infrastructure legislation. The idea behind it was there was $5 billion for safety improvements that was available through a competitive grant process. What made this program special is that most funds flow through the transportation cabinet and then down to the locals. This was a direct to local program. So this, a lot of times we have issues, problems on our local roadways, and we don't really have the funding for that. You know, not that it's not important on our locals, but oftentimes we've got more you know, higher crash rates, higher fatality rates on state routes. So this is one of those first ones that really pushed it down to the local level. So if you look at the amount of funding that really has come to locals for safety, we have a program that we run out of our office through the Highway Safety Improvement Program, which is about $300,000 a year for technical assistance. We had started another one that was about another $300,000 for what we call local road safety plans to help identify and analyze that. So you're looking at about $600,000 in funding. And then when Safe Streets and Roads for All came around, you've got $1 billion in funding available for locals. So we said, you know, what can we do to this? So it's kind of a good opportunity. We had partnered with all of the ads to come through there. This is a map. It's an older one. I need to update my picture. As of I think January, every area development district in Kentucky had pursued what we call planning level grants. And so that is a grant to develop a safety plan for all of the counties within Kentucky. So we've got 100% coverage for that grant program now. Big Sandy was the last one that was awarded, and the map just doesn't have Buffalo Trace because of an accounting error on the federal side. But every county in Kentucky has received these what we call safety action plan grants or planning grants to develop a safety action plan. A lot of people always say, what are we going to do with the plan? I always say the number one thing, if you want to try and get funding to put in improvements, it's got to be identified in a plan first. And so, you know, through both the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, as well as through other federal programs, state programs, is that you do need to have that safety plan that says, hey, here's where our crashes are occurring. This is why they're occurring. And this is how we're going to address it. So that's what we delivered to the ad last week, is that safety action plan covering all the counties in Penny Royal. So give you an idea, you know, kind of what's in a plan. The biggest part is crash analysis. So we look at where our crashes are occurring, what types of crashes are occurring, and then what can we do to treat it. It may come as no surprise. We've got a lot of single vehicle collisions on our rural roadways. That's where you've got a narrow road. It's really curvy, and somebody's going to drive off the side of it because it's dark, and, you know, not everybody's a perfect driver going through there. And sometimes you're going to run off the road, and that's what we see time and again. So we go back to how do we keep people on the road through improved signing, improved striping. And then in some cases where we see people running over the road multiple times in the same location, do we need to correct the geometry at that road or something like that? So give you we did do a community survey. That number is actually wrong. It was 243 responses. Penny Royal wins the award for the most responses out of all the ads that we've worked with. So we had one, I think we had about 20. I think that was just everybody that worked at the ad, you know, so we had a really good response coming out of here. What it really kind of showed is people are relatively comfortable driving. If you look at biking and walking on our county road system, you know, there's not a lot of room for that. I heard one story where somebody said they were walking even just for health, and somebody stopped and said, "Do you need a ride? Are you okay?" You know, so it's not something that we really see around our area. So this is so we start looking at this. This is an old picture. I got this one updated through here. If we look at our data collection issues for Penny Royal, this is all the data points that we collected. So we collected close to 2,000 data points on the roadway. These are all locations where we say there might be an issue here that we need to address. So we've collected a lot of data. Crittenden County is blank because we had actually done them with a pilot project probably about 5 years ago now. And so that one hasn't been incorporated yet. You'll notice Caldwell does not have a lot of data collected. So, you know, if you do want to collect additional data, or if you've got some information that you want to include in there, we can do that as well. And we have a few points in Trigg County as well. But give you an idea of what we're looking to identify through this plan is it's not major projects. The reason we're not focusing on major projects is because if you look at where our crashes occur, they don't occur at one location. You will typically, if you've got a rural county road, and you kind of see it in this picture here, there's somebody's going to run off at any point along that roadway. They're never going to run off the road in the same spot twice. That's because if you think of your own driving experience, you know, you're going to sneeze at a different location on the roadway. You're going to have to turn around and yell at your kids at a different location on the roadway. There's a lot of distractions or where you may not be performing at your best, but our roads all have narrow shoulders, drop offs, curves throughout it. And so it's when those two line up that we have crashes. So we don't look at, can we fix one curve? We say, what can we do on the length of that roadway? So can we improve shoulders throughout the length of that roadway? Can we put down edge line striping that gives that additional guidance, especially when it's dark and it's wet out along that roadway? Can we do horizontal curve signing? So the curve ahead sign where we've got, you know, visually obstructed curves or where we've got sharp curves. Can we do that throughout that road? So we're not looking at big projects, though we do have some locations where if you're running 5-10 vehicles off and getting crashes at the same location, we need to fix them. But mostly we're focusing on these, what we call systemic or widespread measures through there. So looking at striping, shouldering, signing is a huge one, looking at object markers. So if we've got something on the side of the roadway that people are running into, you know, if it's a tree, we can remove it. If it's a head wall, we can't really remove it. So can we at least put signing up that says, hey, pay a little bit more attention as you come through here? You know, looking at wet weather countermeasures. So we check all the roads. Do we have an over-representation of wet weather collisions? That's going to tell us if we've got a friction issue or we've got a drainage issue. So how can we mitigate that? Vegetation management, you know, fixed objects, guardrails. Those are what we kind of focused on coming in through here. And so, you know, some of y'all are thinking, there's no way I'm going to be putting edge line striping down on all of my roadways. And that's not what we're here to do as well. So I wore out the clicker. Could you go to the next slide? So one of the first things that we did is we looked at where our crashes are occurring, where our people are driving. So we don't have traffic volume data, but we've got some probe data. And that's typically if you're using your GPS to get somewhere, if you sign up for insurance and they said, put this app on your phone and we're going to monitor your driving, somebody collects all that data in the cloud. And so we get representative data of how often people are on some of these roads. So we looked at our use data, we looked at our crashes, and we ranked all of our roadways. What we did from then is say, okay, if we take all of the injury and fatal crashes that we had on our county road system, where do we draw that line? And so what we typically saw is that about 20% of our roads have about 95% of our injury or fatal crashes. And so, you know, if you've got, you know, looking at Lyon County, we got 180 miles of road, 95% of injury and fatal crashes occur on 10% of those. So now we're not talking about signing 180 miles of road. We're not talking about edge line stripes on 180 miles of road. We're talking about, 18 miles of roadway that we need to treat, and that's got 95% of our injury and fatal crashes. So that's what this focus road list does. So you can see kind of by county how that falls out. Christian, you got a lot of miles of road. Your crashes are spread out, so you kind of draw the short straw of 36% on that. Caldwell, again, we're on 9% of the road. So that's kind of how we came up with this focus road, about 20% across the region. Like I said, on those roadways, we did the data collection. We came down, and most of the counties sent somebody down to do the data collection. So you can kind of see the coverage we've got here. For each one of those, what we said was, where do you see a potential for a crash? Not necessarily has a crash occurred here, but where's the potential? So we can be proactive in addressing that. So, those 2,000 or so locations, we went through each of those. We'll go ahead and jump down to it here. And for each of those, we get to a specific recommendation for that roadway or for that individual issue. So, looking beyond the data collection, we've also got our crash data. Kind of what we mentioned before, the biggest one, in here region wide is looking at those single vehicle collisions. That's where the majority of our injury and our fatals occur. We do have some, side swipe opposite direction. That's meeting on a narrow roadway. And you can see we've got a high percentage there. And then most of our angle collisions really occur at two-way stop control intersections. So that's where you're going along a county roadway, and there's some of these because of the vegetation that's straight. It looks like you continue straight on through and you might be running into a roadway, or you might have a sight distance obstruction at that intersection. So those are our primary crash types. What we've done then, so we looked as regionally, then we go in and we look at each individual county. So we've got kind of a brief county overview. And then this is our focus road. So look, this is Christian County. Christian County's got 69 roads that make up that top focus road, that 95% of crashes. So those are all mapped. We've got the road names with the number of crashes and all over through there, and those are ranked. So from that, what we did is we have our 69 roadways. For the top 5 roads, we go into a little bit more detail, looking at, what types of crashes we've got, where our injuries are, looking at our typical roadway sections. So, this is what our roadway looks like. So it's again, fairly narrow rural road. Everybody's probably got, 100 miles of that. We have crashes plotted by severity. We also have plotted by manner of collision as well as road conditions. So we can try and identify where those wet weather collisions are occurring. And then this is the data collection that we had through there. So the pinks are signs. So we've got a good inventory of signs along the roadway, as well as bridge hazards, curve hazards, drop-offs, fixed objects, guardrails, intersections, general roadway sections, and then others. So, it's surprising how many things that you never thought you'd see on the side of the roads, on the side of the road, that can be hazardous. So we've identified those as well. For each one of those, then, this is where we've got the individual points and then the recommendations for those. So you can see that there's a lot of information on all of these. In addition to those top 5 roads, we've also got county-wide recommendations for each of the different types of hazards that have been identified. So essentially for those, what was the question?
Those first 4 roads, I don't even recognize.
Okay. So that's going to get us to the next steps, and we'll talk about that. Next steps, review the proposed improvements. What we're going on in terms of road names is what we've got in the GIS database. And so And a lot of times roads might switch names, a lot of times it's known locally as something else and then it's actually recorded. So, review those. As you go through it, did we miss something? I'll be the first to admit, we're doing crash analysis. I'm doing it from Lexington. I didn't drive these roadways. I don't know these roadways. I don't get complaints on these roadways. I don't want to get complaints, so you don't have to call me. But, we don't know these roads like you do. So if you're saying, hey, there's another road in our county, in our area that we really want you to take a look at, by all means, let us know. We'll pull crash data. We can do a review and get that into that safety plan as well. Is there other projects that you've already identified in your area that you say, this is something we've been pushing for long? It didn't show up on the top of the list, but it's still important to the community. Let us know that, because then we can incorporate that directly into the safety plan. The reason why it's important to get those projects in is because this can be a funding mechanism that you can say, look, we've identified these issues, these projects in our safety plan. Now we want to go pursue funding for it. So it's important that we get it in the plan so that we're going to look at state funding, federal funding opportunities in the future. So that's where we're at. Like I said, we deliver the draft plan. There's a lot of information in there, but it may miss something that's important. So let us know and we'll make sure that we can go through and do that. We've been working the past couple of weeks with City of Henderson and City of Owensboro, trying to get some of their projects in where they've had projects on the books that they're saying, hey, we need to do this, trying to get that incorporated into the plan as well. So, that's the goal. Finally, and Angela, this is my last one from running out of time. I don't want to understress the value of a plan, and that sometimes what we've seen is because, well, what am I going to do with the plan? This is another plan that's going to sit on the shelf. Number one, like I said, there can be funding tied to it. Safe Streets and Roads for All came by in 2022. We're currently in the last round of funding for that grant program right now. It's open until May 26th. If you've got projects on the book that you say, hey, we could use some federal funding for this, talk to me right now. We may be able to work something out and get it. At the same time, that's not the only funding opportunity for safety projects that's available. Safe Streets and Roads for All program is ending. As you know, they're coming up with a new transportation bill. I would almost bet that there's going to be safety funds in that. And for the last 10 years, when there's been safety funds, one of the requirements is that you have a safety plan prior to applying for that. So when Safe Streets and Roads for All came out, as I mentioned, we worked with Crittenden County in developing these local road safety plans. Boone County had participated in that program. They had a local road safety plan. As soon as Safe Streets and Roads for All came out, they said, we've already got our plan in place, and they were able to go pursue implementation funds. And so I think they got about $1 million for implementation. City of Lexington, City of Louisville, they also had plans and already put together. And so when the funding came out, they were able to pursue those immediately for that implementation funds in that first round of funding. So having the plan together really helps you be ready for that next round of funding, however it may come into it. I'll also say that, one of the things that we've been working with, and I've been at the Transportation Center for about 20 years. I've been working with our local road program now for about 5 or 6. For the last 5 or 6 years, what we've been talking about with KYTC is how can we get more safety funds for local roads. And that comes through the Highway Safety Improvement Program. And so they are starting to have a set aside of HSIP funds for local roads. And guess what? One of the requirements is you have a safety plan in place for that as well. So there's state funding, there's bound to be federal funding coming through as well. However, I'll also say a lot of the things that we're talking about are some of the things that we do with just everyday maintenance, vegetation clearing, making sure our signs are in good condition. This plan gives you that roadmap of where, because we know you can't be everywhere at once. This gives you that prioritization and say, we're gonna focus on these roadways where the majority of our crashes are coming. If you get a complaint on another road and you say, there's 3 people who live back here and you don't want to do it, you can point to the plan and say, we're installing guardrail on our higher volume roadways. We're installing guardrail at our higher risk locations. So it really gives you a good kind of roadmap for how you address some of these just regular maintenance activities. And then also, I know we just went through the highway plan process, but it can also help you identify important things that you can bring up through just for general funding prioritization as well. So I always say there's value in a plan. What we want to do is get your projects, your priorities in that plan. So review it and let us know. If you also, so let's say you didn't think of a project, we go ahead and we put final on this plan, and 2 years later say, hey, we want to pursue funding for this. This is not a dead document. It's supposed to be a living document, something that we come back to, that we update with crash data, that you can come in, and this essentially sets that framework that the ad can kind of maintain. And so you get projects come in, talk to Angela and say, hey, we want to add this to our safety plan, make sure that we're going to be eligible for funding in the future. So that's my pitch. That's what's in there. Angela, I assume you'll be pushing the plan out if you haven't already done so.
Yes, it was included. It's housed on our website where they can go and download it basically from the Dropbox link, because it is shockingly large. It is not emailable in any way. So those links have been provided for them to review. What I was going to ask is, can you please provide us with your overview as well, since we kind of went through that kind of fast? We'll put that out there too and give them a little while to digest it before we start moving forward on the next steps.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. We'll send this out and we'll put some other documents together to kind of just let you know, like, hey, this is what you're looking at. And then, if you have any questions, you can feel free to contact me or Angela as we go forward.
But there will be some things moving forward that are probably going to happen quick, as far as them adopting the zero death statement and things that you all as counties need to do, so we can work towards wrapping this up, in addition to actually reviewing the document and making sure everything in your county is how we want it to be.
Any questions?
So that plan that's on there, Angela, has our county recommendations for each. Okay, I just want to make sure that was on there and we can pull that.
But if you could like a paper copy of the 343 pages, I have it right here.
You didn't print it out for
Oh,
everybody.
my God.
I did not print it out for everybody.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate you being here. All right, we'll move on down now to public comment, and I know Representative Thomas is with us, and I hate to put you on the spot, but if you would like to say anything about the most recent session or any updates.
I want everyone to know that, we've been, over the years, we've been allocating, I'm sorry.
Sorry, just in case we have somebody listening on
That's
the.
true. Yeah, over the years, we have actually been promising a lot more projects than we actually had funding for. So I know our road plans look a little tighter this year, and we're like, oh, we didn't get what we wanted. But we're actually have the money to fund the ones that we're actually putting out there. So this is something that's been over the last couple budget cycles that Chair Petrie for A&R has been trying to tighten that down a little bit, so we're not over promising. And so hopefully we can get some of these projects done, because the money is actually there.
Thank you, sir. All right, before we close, I think possibly we may need to discuss the elephant in the room with respect to either proposed or now enacted state of emergency. And I don't know who wants to lead that discussion, but or if even is everyone aware of the?
I'd just like to, I think
Yeah, it's certainly concerning, especially with, I think we all received our cooperative dollar allocation over the last 2 weeks, and I know ours is roughly 20% reduction. the bigger concern that I have, especially with this emergency going into play, is it would be up to government, local government officials to keep it past 30 days. Where's the assurance from the administration that if we opt out of it, those revenues will come back to us specifically? It sounds like an administrative nightmare that will cost significantly more to administer than what we saved.
Judge, everybody might not know what the state of emergency is. I don't know if everybody got that email or not.
Yeah, so basically the proposal is to cut the gas tax 10 cents to help struggling Kentucky families. And everybody can have their own opinion, and I've certainly got one, but let's say I've got a vehicle that's got a 20-gallon gas tank and I run it completely dry. I'm gonna save $2. I mean, is that really gonna put me over the top as a Kentucky family in need? It's just a nightmare waiting to happen. And it so negatively impacts, or has the potential to, our local funding stream because of the fact we're based on a revenue sharing model. Extremely unfortunate that this can even be done, I think. We've already experienced a cut in our county road aid agreement monies in February, where we were expecting a $389,000 check, and for our county we got a $165,000 check. Well, we ran out of road money last week, so we've borrowed money now to make it through to the end of the year, hoping we get a settlement in July, which I doubt we get that, because if we're that short in February, how are we going to make it up by July? And I don't know that everyone fully comprehends or understands the impact of these decisions. And that's my biggest concern. And I'll leave it at that. I don't know. I talked with a few folks earlier today. I don't know if it would be prudent for this group to draft some sort of letter or some sort of resolution. Just that's totally up to this group, I think. But and Jason may be back there going, no, don't do that. But I don't think we can sit on this and be quiet about the impact.
Well, add to it, Judge, that after 30 days, it's up to the local officials whether they want to extend it.
Yeah, and when I'm not sure a lot of local officials completely understand the process either. And it's worrisome about what that, whenever the governor's office sends out that blast email about sign this to extend this emergency declaration, how many people may actually sign that?
Then you have 450 cities and 120 counties, and all of them are gonna have different amount of gas tax.
And
Administrating, yeah.
How's that gonna get spread back out?
And the majority of the gas stations are in the cities, so who's gonna stand up and say, no, I'm for removing this cut in the gas tax?
So to capture the spirit of that email we received yesterday for you all that didn't get it, it came from the cabinet secretary's office.
Who happened to be out of the office whenever you reply.
Inviting us to a meeting that had
No meeting information.
No meeting
information, including time zone.
Yeah.
So. In fact, I almost thought it was spam. I mean, I really did, with it having not any detail to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did. I shot an email back immediately asking where the meeting was, when it was, and what time, and got an auto response that I'm out of the office. Sorry.
So did you all with the state, did you get any information on what this is gonna do to your budget or our budget? Or is it just?
Projects.
Yeah,
Throwing
well,
something out.
roads. I mean, y'all have already got a 6% cut. How much more are you gonna get cut?
We're going to make thoughtful decisions and spend every dollar to the best of our ability.
That sounds like a fair statement.
So was there any discussion about would there be guardrails then put on?
regulate the price of fuel because of the emergency authority to 30 days. So it's really, the consumer may not see anything.
Exactly, in my opinion, that means exactly it.
Yeah, at the retail level, are they gonna take advantage of that to have another 10-cent profit built in?
I don't know. I don't think he has yet.
Yeah,
Who sent you all the email?
Was it the secretary?
Commissioner Sawyer's.
Commissioner Sawyer's,
Okay. EOG.
ELG.
Recorders.
So they came from the Department for Local Government.
Yeah.
Which was interesting because that didn't come from KYTC.
Yeah.
It was
Have we heard if it's gonna get signed off on by the Attorney General? I know it sounded like he was going to, but I don't know that he has yet.
Yeah, I don't know either. Haven't checked it this morning.
Judge, to answer your question, I mean, I think this would be an appropriate group to submit any type of communication requesting anything or just submitting an opinion.
So I would propose that we draft a document. Email a copy out to the entire group for your review. And then if everyone's in agreement, we'll sign that and send it on. And you can respond to that email according to your approval or disapproval. Is that sufficient?
Judge, while you're stirring the pot, as a city, I've got to stir the pot a little bit more. I don't want anything cut because we already get less than the county do.
Yeah,
And the road mileage in the city costs as much as it does in the county.
yes,
So I'll just throw that in the pot while you're stirring it a little bit.
I understand.
And I know the effort's been made statewide to try to get more monies allotted to everybody. So anytime there's a cut, and I'd say this, and we generally talk about this discussion as a county discussion. But when there's a cut, the cities simply get cut as much or more because our share's already. I just want that on the record while we're talking about the record.
I agree wholeheartedly. Appreciate your comments.
But I think there's another piece of this that Representative Thomas, I think you're the only one here.
Yeah. Yes, that's why I needed to bring them.
I think this is a perfect example of unintended consequences, because back in I think it was 20 or 21, after COVID, the legislature limited the governor's state of emergency authority to 30 days. So now if he puts this in place after 30 days, every mayor and judge has to decide whether to request an extension or not, which is what's going to cause the whole cluster from the state throughout the state of what the gas tax is going to do.
Rachel and I were just talking about that. That's puts a lot of pressure on all the local people and everything else.
The administrative responsibility, to take that task on within itself is unfair.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say, Judge, that after 30 days, it becomes a local. Sort of, except with that, the local government would keep that funding. In this case, we don't know what the hell will happen to it.
This could be a good test pilot for the sale of local option tax.
Well, anybody that's up for reelection is going to have a hard time telling their people, I'm putting that gas tax back on right before the election.
Exactly.
Which is why I'm still undecided who I'm voting for Judge Executive.
I'll put that in the minutes.
All right, do we need a motion regarding the drafting of that document?
I would love to have,
Okay.
I would love to have a motion for that, and maybe with
move.
some details on the objectives that we want to achieve with the letter, just a little bit of guidance.
We'll work on that, Angela.
Okay.
Get that. All right, do I have a second? Got a motion by Scott Marshall, second by Judge Whitfield. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Motion carried. Before we close out, I did want to recognize Morgan Alley with Senator McConnell's office being here with us today. And Morgan, I don't know if you want to follow any of that up with any comments or not, but you're welcome to before we adjourn.
I'll throw a couple things out there.
I know there's a lot of discussion about grants. Just a reminder that if you're ever applying for any direct federal grants, generally our office can provide support letters, on the transportation front. I know a couple months ago, the USDOT build grant deadline, I think that was in late February. I'm not aware of any applications in this area for that program, but, if there are, we probably could still get a letter out, if that's something you would be interested in, just email me the details. And then on a non-transportation, note, the longest government shutdown in history is now over, at DHS. Last week, the House passed, a previous passed Senate bill that essentially funds all of DHS with the exception of ICE, and that the plan is to put that funding in a separate reconciliation bill that would avoid the 60 vote threshold in the Senate. But for all intents and purposes, I know, communication with FEMA was a struggle during this time, but they should be back operating normally. If you all have had any communication issues, since the shutdown, that should be better. So I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. We appreciate you. With that, our next meeting will be August 5th. And then I think Angela has some lunch announcements.
For those who are staying over with us for the water council meeting, there will be lunch here in just a little bit. So if you're gonna hang out and spend a little bit more time with us for that meeting, there will be some lunch in just a few minutes.
All right. Do I have a motion then to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Judge Williams, second by Judge Green. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Thank you.